All right. Hope you like that one. All right. Now, we are going to go now to our recorded calls. These are the ones that came in on 833 LCN Tips. And we're going to go to Jeff over by Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Hi, Alan. My name is Jeff. I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I've got a mixture of Kentucky blue and ryegrass, perennial ryegrass, and I've got about 4 acres to take care of. I wonder if you could do a segment on the podcast where taking care of larger lawns, what the priorities might be. I spray for weeds and I put milorganite down. However, milorganite is extremely hard to get in Fort Wayne or any surrounding area. So if we could have some tips how you take care of a larger lawn without breaking the bank, and what might you do to control the large fescue that keeps popping up throughout areas in the yard? Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks, Alan, and thanks for all your videos. Really, really enjoy them. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, Jeff. Great question. So, yeah, I've got some experience this year actually with some larger lawns. Obviously, when I worked for True Green Chem Lawn, worked with larger lawns, but as a DIYer, I started working on some larger lawns. I've been working at the Freedom Factory, which is 100,000 square feet. Now, it's not 4 acres. You know, an acre is 43,500, so it's a little over 2 acres. But still, it's not a small lawn. So Jeff's like, hey, man, give me some advice here. So the first piece of advice that I would say with a large property like that is you're not going to be able to manicure it perfectly all 4 acres. Holy cow, man. You'd break the bank for sure you would. The other thing is, man, that's a lot to do. So what I recommend you do typically when you have 4 acres is why don't you choose like 10,000 in the front, maybe 15,000 in the back, so 25,000, and make that just around the house, maybe a couple 2 tree tiles on each side over there. And so maybe you have like a 30,000 square foot area around your house and make that your showpiece. Make that your pristine lawn. And that's the one that you do invest the most of your money in, and you go on a standard program. Okay, so that's the one where you're fertilizing every 4 to 6 weeks. You know, like our app says, you're putting down your pre-emergence. Maybe you're spraying for weeds when you need to. And we'll talk about equipment in a minute because it's still a big section, so you're not going to do most of this with a 2-gallon pump sprayer. But that's what I recommend you do first: is cordon off that 30,000 square foot around the house, or whatever's logical based on the shape of your property and where your house is located on that property, and make that your pristine area. Then your other 3 acres, you know, going to be a little bit different, right? A little bit not get so much care, but still something. You want to still keep the weeds down. You still want to keep it looking fairly nice. Oh, by the way, the other thing is with that 30,000 square feet, you'll be able to keep that irrigated. Invest in that. I'm assuming, you know, you're a rich guy with 4 acres. You could afford to irrigate 30,000 of it, right? Bigger lawn, bigger wallet. I guess that's kind of how that works, right? But for sure, though, you want to irrigate the 30,000. You're probably not going to be able to irrigate the entire 4 acres. So, again, focus all the treatment or the main treatment on that 30,000 square foot area. Now, for the rest, what are we going to do? The other 3 acres. The first thing I'm going to say is that with your ides, you want to go liquid. What are ides? Those are your pesticides. So herbicides. Herbicides are things that kill or alter the growth of a plant. So weed killer, that's a herbicide. Prodiamine is a herbicide. It alters the growth habit of a plant. Your insecticides. Insecticides are things that kill bugs or alter their growth habit. You have your fungicides. Those are things that will alter or stop a fungus. You get the idea, right? Those are your ides. You're always going to be saving lots of money. And I'm going to work some math out here for you. You're going to save so much money if you do your ides in liquids. So let me give you an example here, okay? And I wrote all this down. So prodiamine pre-emergent, you can get a 5-pound jug of the WDG, that's wettable dispersible granule. You get a 5-pound jug of that, and that's going to be $67. We have that on our website, thelawncarenut.com. Yard Mastery has it. You can get it pretty much everywhere. It's not like it's anything special. So $67, and that 5 pounds will cover about 4 acres. Now we're going to assume you're going to do your whole property with this prodiamine, not just the 3 acres that's rough versus the 1 acre that's not rough, the whole 4 acres, right? So to make my math easy, then that $67 will cover all 4 acres for pre-emergent. Not a bad deal, right? $67 for an app. of prodiamine pre-emergent for 4 acres. Now, let me illustrate for you what that would cost if you did it in granular. Now, you're not going to find straight prodiamine at most big box stores, but we have it, obviously, on our website. I'm pretty sure pretty soon these big box stores, they'll start carrying it, just like they all have Milorganite clones now. They're going to start carrying their own prodiamine. You watch. That's how demand works from you guys. You guys are a very powerful audience. But here in Florida, you can get a straight prodiamine from Sunnyland. It's a 50-pound bag, and it's $25, okay? So let's just use that math. That's store-bought prodiamine, 007. It's the same stuff we sell, except it's at the store. So $25. So 50-pound bag covers 20,000 square feet. So if an acre is 43,500, that means that 4 acres is 174,000. So you would need 8.7 bags of the dry stuff. So just call it 9 bags of the dry stuff. That would cost you $225 for that app. So if you do the liquid, which is the water dispersible granule, you put that in your sprayer. We'll talk about equipment in a minute. That'll cover that 4 to 5 acres, and that will cost you $67. If you do the granular, assuming you can find it at a store local to you, which 99% of you listening to this can't, but if you could, and you did the granular, that'd be $225. So 67 versus 225. That's why the liquids are better. By the way, you can find granular pre-emergents in stores, but they're always mixed with fertilizer, which adds even more to the cost, just so you know. All right, let's do another example. By the way, both of those do need to be watered in. Now, up in Fort Wayne, you're going to be doing that in the spring when you're getting rain, so that's a good thing. The WDG formulation needs to be watered in a little faster than the granular. The granular has a little longer, but those do degrade in the sun, FYI. So you want to get those watered in. Let's go to bifenthrin, another ide. This is an insecticide, and bifenthrin is what we use really generally on a 4-acre property would be great because it's going to kill the nuisance pests like the ants, the fleas, ticks. You know, you don't want those. But it'll also kill if you get damaging pests like sod webworm. Oh, another nuisance pest that kills mosquito. So bifenthrin's a good one to use as a general all-around insect killer. So you can get liquids there, a 3/4 gallon. It's called Bifen IT. That's the generic of bifenthrin. 7.9% is the concentration. You can get 96 ounces of that liquid concentrate for $55. The max rate on that's 1 ounce per 1,000. So if you use the max rate, you'll get 96,000 square feet out of a 96-ounce bottle, right? So you're going to need a couple of jugs, just say. You're just going to need 2 jugs. So that's $110. So if you wanted to do an app on the 4 acres liquid with the Bifen, that's a liquid concentrate, you mix in water and spray it out, it would cost you $110. Now let's say you found the same exact product, bifenthrin granular, which you can get on Do My Own, and it is $32 a bag, and the bag covers 10,000 square feet. So you'd need 17 bags of the granular, which would cost you $541. So if you went with liquid Bifen, you're going to pay $110 for an app versus the granular Bifen is going to cost you $541. And that's nothing against Do My Own. They're just the ones that sell it. Everybody else would be the same. So the idea being, this is another illustration that it is cheaper to go liquid when it comes to your ides. Okay? All right, now let's go back to the granulars because, fertilizers, I'm sorry. He said he was using Milorganite. Holy cow, bro. I mean, whether you can find Milorganite or not, that is expensive. Milo is $14 a bag. It's a 640 analysis, and it's a 32-pound bag. So due to the size of this property, you know, you're going to need a lot of bags. So if you wanted to put down 3/4 pound of nitrogen, which, I mean, I don't think you're going to, I mean, on that much acreage, you're going to see how much it's going to cost. I would do that in spring and fall maybe because most of it's going to go dormant in the summer anyway. So besides the 30,000 square foot around your house, I really wouldn't apply fertilizer to the rest of the field in the summer at all, knowing that it's probably going to go dormant. But if you were going to apply, here's the Milorganite cost. To get down 3/4 pounds of nitrogen, that's what, 12 pounds per 1,000. So that means each bag will cover about 2,600 square feet. He has 174,000 square feet, so he's going to need 67 bags at a Milo. 67 bags. You're going to have to, you're ordering, that's like, I mean, a pallet is 40 bags. It's like almost 2 pallets that you got to carry there. That's $938 per application if you're paying $14 a bag. So call it $1,000. It costs you $1,000 to do an app. Bigger lawn, bigger wallet, my brother. Drink some more beer when you're done. So, I do want to do a little comparison here because I've done this before, but it's been a while, and people, it opens their eyes. Carbon X is actually cheaper than Milorganite. And that's because Milorganite takes so much pounds on the ground to get the yield because it's a 640, right? So 6% nitrogen, whereas Carbon X is 24% nitrogen, 24% nitrogen. So let's do a little idea there. Carbon X is $59.99, so $60 a bag. That bag covers 15,000 square feet. So the Milo bag only covers 2,600, it's 32, versus the Carbon X bag that is a 45-pound bag covers 15,000. There's not a lot of correlation there, but the idea being $60, 15,000 square foot coverage. To get 3/4 pound of nitrogen, you only have to put 3 pounds per thousand. So Milo, in order to get 3/4 pounds of nitrogen, you have to put down 12 pounds per thousand, a lot of pounds on the ground. Carbon X, because it has so much more nitrogen, you only have to put down 3 pounds per thousand. So here's where the math works out. You only need 12 bags of Carbon X. Okay, so you needed 67 bags of Milorganite. You only need 12 bags of Carbon X. 12 bags will cost you $719. So look at what I'm saying here. $1,000, $938 for an app of Milorganite, or $719 for an application of Carbon X. Now, some of you are freaking out. You're like, I wouldn't pay any of that. Guys, he has 4 acres, okay? The math works out, though. It's cheaper by the in rate to get Carbon X. Both good for the soil, so both have iron. You know, all of that. Okay, so if you're going to go with granulars, I would definitely look at going with something higher nitrogen. And that's really what I'm saying there. Am I trying to sell you some Carbon X? Of course I am. But what you should really do is get something with a higher number of nitrogen, because that means less pounds on the ground, so you don't have to buy as many bags, and it should be cheaper overall. That's really the lesson there. When you have a big property like that, and in general, the higher the nitrogen, the less pounds on the ground. Okay. If you wanted to do liquid, if you wanted to go liquid for your fertilizer, you get the 1801 Green Punch. Now, you're not going to get 3/4 pound out of that of nitrogen. You could, but you don't need to, because John Perry formulates it with sea kelp, humic, and he has some iron in there. You know, the nutrients go a little bit further. You get a pop of color without having to put as much nitrogen down. That's his whole philosophy, is less inputs, lower inputs, low nitrogen. That's John Perry's philosophy. And if you're on the liquid programs, you get really good results with much less input, with much less on the ground. So with the 1801 Green Punch, it's 16 ounces per thousand. That's going to yield you right around 1/4 pound of nitrogen per thousand. If you have 174,000 square feet times 16 ounces per thousand, you need 2,784 ounces. That's 21.72 gallons. So just call it 22 gallons that you need. It's about $26.20 per gallon. So the cost of your application with 1801 Green Punch at $26.20 per gallon, and you need 22 gallons, will be $676. So actually a liquid application, going by the John Perry philosophy there of the lower end, which I do tell you works if you like liquid, and we're going to talk about equipment in a minute, your app there would be $676. So back to it, a Milo app at 3/4 pounds of N, $719. A Carbon X app at 3/4 pounds of N, $676. I'm sorry. Let me go back and say that one more time. I messed it up. A Milo app at 3/4 pounds of N, $938. A Carbon X app at 3/4 pounds of nitrogen, $719. And a liquid 1801 Green Punch app at 1/4 pound of nitrogen juiced with sea kelp and iron to boost it, $676. So just looking at the pocketbook there, the liquid is the least expensive. Okay, now let's go and talk about equipment, because this is another thing you're going to have to make an investment in. So I have gotten quite a bit of experience this year with pull-behind equipment. So that's the thing. I'm sure you have some sort of a tractor or zero turn here that you're pulling this with, Jeff. So you already have made that investment, whatever that investment is. I mean, on 4 acres, you might have something fairly substantial. You might have $6 or $7 grand in your mower or your tractor or whatever you're mowing with. So in that case, you can get a pull-behind sprayer. Now, the minimum size pull-behind sprayer I'd recommend if you were going to go with liquids would be a 25-gallon. I have experience with the AgriFab, and it's worked great. I actually think that probably a 25 gallons a little small for 4 acres. I would say it's good for 2 acres or a little more. Like I use it at the Freedom Factory, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it works. You know what I mean? But even there, it seems a little small. So, pull behind sprayer like that, going to cost you somewhere north of $350. You go up to 30, 40 gallon, you might be around $450 to $500 for a pull-behind sprayer. So there's that investment, but that gets out all your liquids. Now, keep in mind, you're saving a lot of money if you've been applying these insecticides and herbicides and things like that for weeds. You have substantial savings there that you can invest in that pull-behind sprayer. Now, the other thing you're going to need then is a pull-behind spreader if you do want to do some granular applications. And those are cheaper. I have the 130-pound toe-behind spreader from AgriFab. Has worked well, has a nice spread pattern. It's like 8 to 10 feet spread pattern, depending how fast you're going. That's $180. That would probably be big enough for 4 acres. You might want to get something a little bigger. So, in that regard, you're going to be somewhere around $600, $700, or $800 just in the equipment to get the fertilizer or your herbicides out. So that's another thing to consider. The other consideration is, and this is something I'm still working with. So I grew up in True Green using permagreens. And in fact, Permagreen used to have a facility there in Maryville, Indiana, over by there when I worked there. And we actually, not me personally, but my technicians, they did a lot of the testing and they had the prototypes. We used to get their prototypes that were all just white fiberglass that they had put together. And we would go out and beat them up and use them on our properties and tell them what we liked, didn't like, make sure nobody died on them, dumped over, whatever. But yeah, those Triumphs and that was my branch office that did a lot of that testing. And we were the first branch in True Green that had a fleet of ride-on spreaders. This was when was this? 2006, 7, 8, maybe 9, 2009, maybe a little later than that. Sometime in that 8, 9 range. True Green had not adopted the ride-on. Guys were still walking large properties at that time, or they just sometimes would turn down some larger properties if they couldn't give them to commercial. What am I talking about? True Green never turns down a property. But you'd have maybe like one ride-on route. But the Maryville branch proved that you could actually do ride-ons and even lawns down to the size of 10,000 square feet. And now I think there's guys doing ride-on spreaders on really small lawns. But anyway, so I have a lot of experience with those spreaders, ride-on spreaders. I actually have here that I'm testing now a Ferris Pathfinder XC. It's the FS 2200, has a 16-gallon tank on it, has a 200-pound spiker hopper on it for the granular, and to me it runs and sounds just like a Permagreen. But that is an investment you may want to make, and some of you, when I tell you the price, they start at like $9,000 for that. Some of you are like, no way, bro. But listen, you have 4 acres. There are people that'll do that. I know that at GIE, I see DIYers looking at these. I know DIYers buy them. I've seen a few. Maybe you want to call the local lawn company, though, and say, hey, when you guys get ready to retire one of your old ride-ons, I'd like to purchase it. Just like these guys do with the reel mowers. They buy them from golf courses. Maybe you want to buy one from your local lawn company, a used one, because you don't have to take it out every day. So maybe they don't use it anymore. And by the way, they have a lot of rebuild kits, especially for the permagreens that you can get. So maybe you want to look at something like that. Maybe you want to get a used one like these guys do with the reel mowers. They buy the used Toro reel mowers off the golf courses. Maybe you want to buy a used permagreen. Check your Facebook Marketplace, that kind of stuff. But that's another option. I will tell you that with that ride-on, that Pathfinder, I can actually do about 2 acres, a little over 2 acres with that 16-gallon tank. That's because it has a 10-foot spray swath, and they put the right tips on there so you can meter it out right. So you can get a lot of square footage done liquid-wise with one of those if you're willing to invest that $9,000. I'll be doing a review on that. It's kind of an extreme thing, but I saw the opportunity to get it. I don't own it. It's on loan to me, but I will be doing that. So as far as your tall fescue clumps out there, Jeff, I'm sorry, buddy. I got nothing for you on that. There is no non-selective herbicide, or there is no selective herbicide that will kill tall fescue clumps without killing the rest of your lawn. So that's one of those you got to stop and dig them out, or maybe drive by with a golf cart and glyphosate them as you go, something like that. So there you go. Big lawns. Went through some pricing, some ways to look at things to save a little bit of money and a little bit of the equipment.